What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Schoch Factor Podcast, where we got a fun one in store for you. We're going to hit, we're going to pitch, we're going to do a little bit of everything here because we got Florida Baseball's two-way star, Jac Caglianone. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Just finished up morning runs and getting ready to start the day.
I don't think I've ever said the words great and morning runs without the word not in the same sentence. So, what morning runs do you guys have going on?
Just a lot of like pulling sleds, a lot of sprint work. Yeah, just really kind of get us moving again, get us a little more explosive and a little quicker.
Yeah, just a nice little hey, welcome back to campus. We're gonna ease you right into it. Just kidding. We're pulling sleds at 6 a.m. in the morning, so that's super fun. At least that part of your day is over. So now it's probably just like smooth sailing for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, thankfully I don't have class today, so just hanging out until we have to go get lunch and then go to the field.
Yeah, of course, because it's never one and done with college baseball, and this is the type of work ethic it takes to get to play in the College World Series finals and to get to Omaha. So it's all the little things that'll get you there, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So it sounds like you have a pretty free day. And, last time I had talked with you, you were playing representing the country for Team USA. And you had mentioned as soon as you were done, as soon as you were finally done your long streak of baseball for the year of 2023, you were going to go fishing. So did you get to go fishing? Did you catch anything? How'd it go?
Good. Yeah, definitely got a lot of downtime back in Tampa to go fish a little bit. The basics, just some snook and trout. Spent a lot of time hunting. Me and my dad took a little trip to Arkansas, went duck hunting, so that was really fun.
Okay, okay. Do you think you could beat up a duck? Do you think you could take them on? Because I don't know much about hunting, but my bar for it is if you could take it down in a bare knuckle fight, go ahead, hunt it. That's the
Yeah.
sort of thing. I think that should be the registration for hunting. Is like, okay, you get in a ring with a deer, you know, we're gonna knuckle fight it. So how many ducks do you think you could take on? Say you guys are hunting ducks rally together and they're like, hey, you know what? They got the machinery, but we got numbers. How many do you think you could take on?
I'd probably take on about 50 ducks. And after that, then it's just becomes overwhelming.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see them just kind of overthrowing the whole system. But no, I think if I'm a duck, I'm like, hey, no, that's two-way star. I'm going to ask for an autograph and, get out of here. But looking ahead and just kind of looking back at your process, getting to play at Florida and getting recruited for Florida, what was your high school recruiting process like?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I took an unofficial to Gainesville before they had the new stadium and everything. And it was just kind of one of those places that felt like home kind of immediately. With Sully and Chuck and Cop and Craig Bell, and now Taylor Black. All the guys were just very welcoming and stuff. And my high school plant, we have a decent track record of guys who have come through Florida and kind of balled out like Preston Tucker, Pete Alonso, and all those guys. Um, and yeah, you kind of want to keep the track record going and kind of follow, their footsteps and everything. So once they offered my sophomore year, didn't really give many other schools much opportunities to talk to me. The next day, I was wearing a Florida shirt at school, so it was wrapped from there. So yeah,
That's such a textbook move. Okay, we had talks. We went on the visit. I got the offer. I'm wearing the shirt back home. We're representing immediately. It's a immediate switch, which I love. And now, when you were getting recruited, were you always, well, I'm gonna pitch and hit? Like that's just non-negotiable. That's something I'm going to do. Or is it something where, like, as your career developed, you were just like, look, I was planning on doing this till someone told me to stop, and no one's told me that yet, so I'm just going to keep on doing it.
yeah. I mean, basically, I was told that I would do a kind of from the jump, but with Tommy John and stuff, and I'm sure as kind of the years went on, my junior and senior year, when the pitching side, like the velo started increasing and all that, and there was more buzz, rather as a pitcher than a hitter. Um, I was kind of concerned thinking that I was just going to become a pitcher once I got here. Um, and, I guess Sully liked what he saw in batting practice and threw me a bone my freshman year to DH. And yeah, I mean, ever since then, it's just kind of been no looking back.
Yeah, it seems like you took that narrative a little personally of, no, I'm going to be a better hitter then. I'm going to set records home run wise then and do all that. So I love that that's your response to it. And, touching on that point about getting Tommy John your senior year, kind of coming into your freshman year, what is that like mentally? Because again, you're going into it and there's never a good time to get injured, but you probably got it at like one of the worst times now looking back on it, and you've clearly made it out on the other side. You're totally in a good spot. But what was that like as a freshman having that happen?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me was really like I'm not the type of person to sit on the sidelines and kind of, watch my team go out there and fight for a win. Um, there are a lot of tough days, just wondering, will I be the same? Will I have to come back throwing harder? Will, everything kind of be back the way it was? Um, and I mean, I got to credit all that to the coaching staff at Florida. I was along with like my family and my support staff, everybody's, they're rooting you on, they're cheering me on, trying to just get me through each day. And, thankfully we're here now and everything's been going great.
Yeah, and I love your contingency plan of just like, okay, most freshmen in that situation, it would be a question of like, okay, am I going to have a home here next year? Like, how's this going to go? But your plan of just like, you know what? I'll just DH for him, hit 288, belt 7 home runs, and just have that year, while I'm down and recovering, which that's so insane to do. Now, did you know all fall you were gonna be, just a designated hitter for him, or was it something that kind of developed where, you're toying with the idea of, okay, do I redshirt and recover, or was it something like all fall you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna DH?
Yeah, I mean, once like the hitting progression was over with, from Tommy John, it was like, and Sully started floating the idea out there. It was around Vanderbilt. We went to Vanderbilt and then we had Tennessee at home the next weekend. Um, and I was on board 100% right off the rip when Sully said like, "Hey, how would you feel about this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, uh,
Duh, yeah.
but obviously, my parents, and my support group, they were like, you know, say you go over 10 or something, and then you're benched, like you burned the red shirt, whatever. And I was like, you know what? It's like the plan is to help my team win. And that's really all that I wanted to do. And I felt confident in where I was recovery wise that I could balance my throwing program and recovery aspect while also DHing. And luckily it worked out.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out pretty well, and you were able to successfully return to the mound in the fall of 2022, looking into the 2023 season. What was that process like for you, getting back into the swing of things on the mound?
Yeah, there are a lot of obstacles. Definitely the biggest thing was just kind of managing the workload as a position player and as a position pitcher. Probably the biggest thing was really just trusting the surgery and knowing that all the long hours of physical therapy that you've done, or you've done the right stuff, you've built up the right muscles, you're fine. Um, yeah, I mean, I'd say that was probably the biggest thing. But once you get out there and you're competing again, you're not thinking about anything about that. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the underrated, like intangible sort of things about guys who have been injured is they end up like, the way to get back to the field is trusting your preparation and trusting that, everything is in its right spot and it's all going to work out well. But that trust in preparation translates to the games too, where it's like, okay, I threw my bullpen and before the game, I got loose the way I need to get loose. Now I have this confidence of I've done everything I need to do. Now I'm just ready to go out and attack.
exactly.
And so for you, were you always looking like, hey, when I get back, I'm going to be fighting for a spot in the starting rotation? I know you had closed out a few games in high school, collected a couple of saves, but was it always, I'm going to go for a front end of the rotation role, or had you looked into maybe being in the bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, for me. the way I kind of operate and try to operate is really just trying to be where my team needs me, you know. Everybody wants to be a starter. You know, you come into Florida, you were a guy, or you go to any major college, you were a guy at your high school. You know, you're the starter, you're kind of who everybody looked up to. Um, and once you get to college, it's like, okay, now what's my role? You see like the guys in the bullpen, I can promise you were starters in high school and all this stuff. So I really just wanted to get innings. I didn't really care where. And, you know, fortunately, I ended up getting the Sunday spot and kind of ran with it.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. And, your answer there leads me to one of my stupider, less intelligent questions, which, of course, you say, wherever the team needs me, I'll be. Have you ever caught a bullpen or anything of that nature? Like, you ever catch a flat ground, anything like that?
I've got a couple flat grounds, especially back home. But yeah, I typically don't spend much time behind the plate.
Okay, yeah, I figured as much, but I was just thinking, like, I'm always thinking of ways to separate myself and for guys to separate themselves. I've seen a lot of two-way guys emerge. It's coming out of the woodworks. There's so many of them now. I think it's time we have our first three-way player who, he pitches, he plays defense and hits, and he also does supporting staff roles, such as like, bullpen catcher stuff. It's the only other way I think you could get involved to separate yourself. Because, for me, as someone covering the game, I say two-way star, and that's the only way I know how to describe a two-way player, is two-way star. So I think this would just make it easier for everyone, but the bullpen catching, probably not great for your knees. And I would say you have a trajectory that's pretty good where you're at now. So maybe don't do it. But I just wanted to check and see if that's something you've ever considered as a way to separate yourself.
I have a left-handed catcher's mitt, so it's not out of the question.
Okay. See, I figured as much. You seemed like one of the few people that would have one of the 7 lefty catcher's mitts in existence. How did you get your hands on a lefty catcher's mitt? Where'd that come from?
My high school coach had it, and then he let me mess around with it, and I mean, I still have it, and it's just one of those cool things to say that you have.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it, but it's one of those things. I thought maybe, just another way to separate yourself. I mean, you've already done enough to separate yourself, though, so you're probably good. I would say that's more for like a fringe two-way guy, not where you're at. Now, I I want to talk about last season, of course. Another great thing you did was you hit more home runs with a BB core bat than anyone has ever hit. And that's super cool. You did it. You sealed the deal with probably the highest home run I've ever seen in my life. It was what me and my other co-host will call an up home run, which is it would have gone out of the park based on how high it went if you just laid it flat. So walk us through that process, because I'm sure, like, when you're going through it, do you hear the outside noise of like, oh, will Jac Caglianone break this record? Will this happen? Like, is that anything on your radar, or what's your thought process going into it?
Yeah, so towards the end of the year, it was definitely something that was kind of on my mind. Um, everybody always wants to be the guy that holds a record or, breaks them and stuff like that. So, I kind of dug myself into a little hole thinking more so about homers than um, actually being productive. So uh, with the help of Coach Drawman, he really kind of kept me on like the straight and narrow with it. Because, he's the guy I talk to about with just about anything mental type of deal that goes on throughout the games. And, he's like, you need to just go back to, wanting to beat the other team. Uh, and I kind of stuck with that. And luckily that day he ended up hitting two, and it was like, oh, this guy,
Oh
this
yeah.
guy he's talking about. He's been here for a while now. So
so
yeah,
would
but
you
you definitely hear it.
so would you say what helped you there was just kind of forgetting about everything else and just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go and try to help the team win?
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was the motto all year. And you start counting down, you're like, oh crap, I got like 4 games left. I'm two away. I'm like, how are we gonna swing this?
Yeah, and as soon as you start thinking in baseball, that's when you lose. Like, as soon
Yeah,
as any thought enters either person's head, it's like, okay, they lost right here. but
exactly.
but I mean, you got back on track, and again, talking about home runs in the 2023 season, I got to talk about when you gave us potentially one of my favorite moments of the college baseball season, which was in your series against Georgia. Your friend Brandon, might look at the opposing dugout and flex a little bit. He's excited. Everybody's excited. It was a huge moment after striking someone out. He gets ejected for it. A little bit later, we fast forward a little bit. You're up with the bases loaded, which is never a great situation for the other team, and you end up doing what you do. You hit a grand slam, and in the grand slam, you don't show any emotion. You don't do anything. Like, you go completely robotic. Did you think about that going in? Where did that come from?
Um, I would say kind of like round and third. I was like, all right, I was like, what can I do here to like capitalize on this moment? And I was like, nothing would be pretty good. So that's just kind of what I ran with. And yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it to blow up the way it did, but it's really funny looking back on it.
No, it was so good. And like to hear that you thought of it that quick is phenomenal stuff because, some people it's like, oh, I really want to hit a home run here so I can do this. And that's totally fine. Everybody has different motivations for things. But that was just like the perfect way to do it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not getting tossed. We're safe. Let's get out of here. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
and then with that, obviously, it helped the team win again, which is at the core of Jac Caglianone, it sounds like, and I'm here for that. Now, looking back on the 2023 season, of course, you guys had a lot of success. You guys make it to the finals of the College World Series. It ultimately doesn't fall your way. But looking back on that moment, how does that kind of come with the team preparing for the next season where it's like, okay, well, we did have a really good season. We got really close to the ultimate goal. We just need to do a few more things right. So has that really come into play in your guys' off-season training looking forward?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of lights a fire. Um, all these guys are hungry. We've put in a lot of hard work over the fall, and from the past few days, everybody's, excited to be back and everyone's putting their best effort into everything that they do. We got a really young team. We got a bunch of new guys. So making sure that the freshmen, know that they're going to play a big role this year is kind of like the biggest thing that we kind of are preaching to them. And hopefully they understand that. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we really just focus on, you got to play for the people around you. Last year obviously sucked to be completely blunt, but you can't let it take away from the positives. There are a lot of positives throughout the year for everybody. Um, but yeah, I mean, we had a very special group last year. We were all very, very close, and I could say without a doubt it was the best group of guys that I've ever played with. Um, but yeah, we have a load of talent with these freshmen and these transfers, and I think we should be back in that same spot and hopefully ironed all the kinks out and, it should be good.
Yeah, I think you guys are poised and ready just looking at the roster. Who are some guys that really stood out to you this fall? Some new guys maybe or some freshmen?
Um, Liam Peterson for sure. He's a really good pitcher. Luke McNeely's also he's been shoving pitcher from Georgia, and Colby Shelton's Colby Shelton. So he's just a barrel finder. So he was really fun to watch as well. And yeah, probably those three guys are probably the biggest guys.
Yeah, with the amount of talent you guys brought in, I can't imagine the inner squads have been a lot of fun for everybody involved because it's just so much. It's every game. It's like a SEC weekend with the amount of talent you guys can field. Legit, two starting lineups in the SEC with one team, which that's got to bode pretty well for success looking forward.
Yeah, I mean you'd hope.
Yeah. And now another thing that I have heard happened in Gainesville this fall is there have been numerous reportings of you throwing pitches in the 100-mile-an-hour range consistently, just kind of sitting there, which I'm super stoked to see that this spring. But what is one thing in your off-season routine or just something you picked up along the way that you would attribute to having that, little tick up in your velo?
Spending a lot of time in the weight room, to be honest with you. Um, Back home, I have a great trainer, and he kind of, I've been working with him since high school, so he really knows my body. So working with him, working on mobility, flexibility, and just kind of incorporating the strength training into that, but having more of an emphasis on the mobility aspect of things. Um, Along with, just cleaning up some of the pitching stuff. Something that I emphasized this offseason was, my mechanics and getting those to be more fluid and clean. I was really, really lucky to I got to work with Cliff Lee for a little bit uh, in Arkansas. So yeah, I mean, having somebody like that to pick his mind is pretty surreal. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I, would accredit the jump to.
Yeah, no, those all sound like phenomenal options. The weight room's always a great place. I love that you touched on the fact that you're mixing flexibility in with that, because I think those two working in tandem is so important for baseball players. But I gotta ask, working with Cliff Lee, how did that happen, and what's the most important thing you've learned from him?
Yeah, so basically through um one of my buddies is actually good friends with Cliff and his family, and they had watched a few of my starts this past year, and
Oh,
I got a text from him saying that he would be interested in working with me in the off season. And a week before we had to go to campus for the fall, I went over there and basically cut up with him for about 4 days, 4 or 5 days, and really talked a lot about the mental side of things, as well as just timing of your delivery and what it should be, and kind of where
mhm.
I was at and building off of where I was already at. The biggest thing that I took away from Cliff is probably, a new grip on my fastball, as well as a lot of, mental edges that, I'm going to be selfish and keep to myself. But
No, keep them to yourself. Always. Feel free to do that. I appreciate you imparting a little bit of wisdom on us, because that always helps. But no, that sounds like an awesome opportunity, and I had no idea about any of that. But I mean, Cliff Lee, talk about a guy who it's good to learn timing from. He had like one of the most fluid motions of anyone I remember watching growing up. So,
yeah, me too. My dad, when he was on the Rangers, me and my dad went to a Rays Rangers game for, I think it was the divisional series. And anywhere from 2010 to 2012, I want to say. And he's like, you got to watch this guy pitch. And, I'm young. So I was like, okay, like, I don't,
uh,
all right.
sure.
Um, and it turns out to be Cliff Lee. So it felt like it was a full circle moment, like actually working with this guy that my dad was like, yo, you need to come check this. Like, you need to watch this guy pitch in person. So that was really
Yeah.
cool.
No, that's such a that was way before you realized how small the world of baseball gets, the more you play it and more you do it. But I love moments like that where, the world of baseball just takes you to the right people at the right time, which is so cool.
Hmm.
Now, in your off-season training, are you more focused on developing like pitch wise, or are you more focused on hitting, or is it just like, look, I'm going to do both. I don't have time to think about what I'm more focused on. I'm just going out and doing it.
Um, Really the second option. Hitting has kind of been the thing that's always come a lot more natural to me.
Hmm.
Uh, but that doesn't take away from the fact that me and my dad go hit just about every night when I'm back home and stuff. Um, but I'd say, when throwing, I put a lot of emphasis on, what me and Cliff had worked on, and making sure that that's all kind of checking all the boxes with that. Um, the pitch type, you do flat ground stuff towards the end of every time you throw, and just kind of making sure everything's where and doing what you want it to. So, yeah, I'd say I put more of an emphasis on the pitching side of things.
Yeah, and now an important note I picked up on from that, and pitching, it's so much finer. It's a lot more fine tuning than hitting, I would say, just because there's a lot more different things that you're in control of. But You mentioned your dad will take you and he'll throw to you and you'll hit. Now you're a two-way guy. Does he ever like, stand in the box for live ABs off you too, or is it just a one-way street with him?
He'll catch like some of my flat grounds and stuff, but he will not step in the box, no.
Your dad is a much braver man than I. I would be out of there in a heartbeat. So good on him. Now, looking back again, just with that Omaha experience, and this is primarily because I forgot to ask this question earlier, but in Omaha, what was your favorite part outside of the baseball field? Because there's so many different things going on there.
Probably the zoo.
Oh,
The
did
zoo was
you?
really fun. Um, Kate Fisher's thing with the red pandas is, kind of a running joke. So kind of being
Yeah.
around him for that and experiencing that with my teammates was really fun. And it was just something to do on the day off.
No, the Omaha Zoo, I am a big advocate for that place. It's so much fun. There's so many great exhibits. So it sounds like the red panda is probably up there for you guys. Was that like your favorite animal to see, or did you have a personal favorite as well?
They ended up not having the red panda. So Cade ended up
Oh,
when he was back home in
that's
the off
disappointing.
season. Yeah, like the Georgia Zoo or something got Cade to go do a personal experience with the red pandas. So that was really cool to hear about. But yeah, I mean my favorite was probably like the giraffes and all that. You got to feed them and stuff, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the little bungalow where you get to feed the giraffes is sick. I love that one. Great, excellent choice there. I can't tell you how well you just did on that question. Now, of course, we're looking ahead to the 2024 season. Is there one thing you're most excited for to happen in the year 2024? Is there anything you're like, okay, this is a goal I'd like, or just like, just a goal in mind of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I speak for myself and definitely the rest of the team. We want to make it back to Omaha. What I'm really excited and looking forward to is definitely one opening day because it feels like, it can't come fast enough. But um, yeah, I mean, just kind of all the experiences and traveling on the road and stuff like that again. That's what I'm really excited about. We go to Arkansas, we go to Baton Rouge this year. So go to a bunch of new places, play in some good environments, and I'm just really excited for all of it.
Yeah, being in the SEC, you get to go to a lot of cool places. And one thing that's unique about you, especially playing with Team USA, is you're probably going to get to play a lot against a lot of guys you played with this summer. Now, in that vein, is there a particular series or particular team you're excited to play because you're going to see some of your buddies?
Yeah, I mean, A&M will be good to see Braden and Jace. Uh, but Georgia will be fun with Condon for sure. So, this, like you said, the world of baseball is really small, so everybody. So it's exciting. I'm just excited to see all those guys.
Yeah, and it's always fun to just like, you spend time in the bullpen with these people and it's like, why are they on the other side of the fence than me? Like we should be hanging out right now. And
Yeah,
that's one of the
exactly.
best things about college baseball too is like all the personalities are similar, so they always end up becoming friends. No one actually dislikes the other team.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jack, I think I speak for all college baseball and just baseball fans in general when I say I am very excited to see what you do on the baseball field in the 2024 season. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy preseason schedule to talk with me and join the podcast. So thank you very much, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. It's always good to talk to you.
Of course, man. I appreciate it.